Hello, Michelle Gray.
Hello, Elisa.
My sweetheart. And hi, Erik, my other sweetheart.
Erik says, hi, Mama. He says, I love you so much. He says, so much.
Love you too. Oh,
I'm giving you some big, he's giving you a lot of love today.
Great. All right, we are going to interview Dr. Luc Montagnier, who discovered the human immunodeficiency virus. He won a 2008 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for this discovery. He's a French virologist. Anyway, he was one of the ones that received the Nobel Prize. He was a joint recipient. So, do we have him present?
Erik just opened the door for him, and I hadn't felt him yet, so I'm just feeling him starting to come in now.
Okay.
And he reminds me of he's actually I want to say he's cute. He's like cute little man. He looks little. He reminds me of who is that? Spiritual Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, I didn't even know what he looks like. I've read his books, but I don't even know what he looks like.
He reminds me of Eckhart Tolle, but he's got glasses on, and the way he's presenting himself is sitting on a little bench, and he's got a newspaper. Like I can see his top half, and he's got this little brown jacket on with a newspaper underneath his arm. Like this, like he's got his information.
Very cool. I keep forgetting to put it on gallery form for Paula. She always fusses at me. So I just changed to gallery format. All right. Now, thank you, Doctor, for coming in and agreeing to be interviewed. And the first question we have from the community is, did you believe in the afterlife when you were alive, or were you a skeptic?
First of all, he's just saying, he says, thank you. Thank you for having him. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and your son. He says that he did believe in the afterlife. He had a growing understanding over the course of his lifetime of science and the nature of our energetic progression. So he says, it wasn't necessarily that I had I wouldn't call it a spiritual connection, but I had more of an energetic understanding of something greater.
Okay, interesting. All right. What was your reaction when you crossed over?
He says that it was very pleasant. He says I wouldn't call it a surprise, although he says seeing that unicorns are real. There are such a thing. That there are many things that we would think in this world were a little, let's say, fruitcakey, that are truly part of our realities and our existences. And so some things were a bit of a surprise, but he's calling it a pleasant understanding.
Oh, interesting. Now, there's a lot of speculation around the cause of your death. Would you like to share how you died?
He says he understands that there's some controversy, he says, because of information that he carried or information that he was presenting to the public, that there was some concern that his passing was not natural. He says, although the timing very coincidental, he does say that his passing was natural. He brings me into the chest as passing in his sleep.
Okay.
Peaceful.
Like a cardiac arrest, heart attack, something like that? Okay. What do you think of the media coverage concerning your death in France, your home country? I mean, what do you think about that? I don't know anything about that.
He just says that he's accustomed to that. That did not surprise him. He also says that there will be more media coverage of him in the coming years.
Oh, okay. How did you discover the HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus?
He's almost saying like it was accidental. He says that it was like something being brought to him. There were others involved, and what he's showing me, and I don't have the medical terminology to understand exactly the words he's using, but he's showing me repeating patterns.
Okay.
Like seeing, so it's like seeing many of the same things, seeing some repeating patterns. He's saying that it was, they didn't call it AIDS at first.
Okay.
They didn't, it was like a, because he says the virus, like repeating patterns of the virus.
Of how it shows up, signs and symptoms, or of the actual viral particle?
Viral particle. He says, because he's showing me actually examining what looks like, to me, it looks like cells, like it's repeating patterns of cells, and he's bringing them forward like they stand out.
Okay.
So it's like we've got all these different looking, they're in red and blue and circular, and the circular ones are starting to lift off the page.
Oh, so
like
he's a pattern of different fire. Okay. All right. Did it come from chimps, or was it man-made or natural from nature?
He's connecting it to being very similar to what we're experiencing with COVID.
Okay, like originating from some animal, right?
He says no.
Oh, no, from a lab.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I'm thinking. All right, now what are your thoughts? There are different kinds of COVID vaccines. The protein-based, there's the mRNA based, and there's the viral vector one. What do you think about these three different categories? So do you like one better than the other?
With the vaccines?
Yeah. Protein, mRNA, and viral vector.
He's saying viral, but he's pulling back on all of them and saying he's got two different views of the vaccine, his human view of it, and his view from the spiritual perspective of it. His view when he was in the physical is there was no preference, like it was denial of the vaccine completely, like not at all. The spiritual perspective, what was the last one that you said? The viral
vector, like Johnson
Yes.
Johnson and AstraZeneca.
That's the one that he's pulling out, but he's also saying there's more knowledge to understanding the vaccine, its effect, vaccines, its effect in the human body, and the understanding of our vibrational frequency and how it affects each human being cannot be compared from one human being to the next.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Is it true that flu injections and vaccines in general could affect and damage our DNA?
He's saying dependent on how it's made. So there are some, he's talking about it's like something that's made in the vaccine. Something that's made in the vaccine, what's put in it, and not all vaccines have the same properties.
Okay.
He's saying like something put in it. So yes, it can have, he's saying long-term effect, and he's talking about the body not being able to produce, or a dependency, a dependency with the
Okay.
body. And he says, creating the body, mutation in the body, or the body not being able to handle the replication.
Okay. Which of those categories are we talking about vaccine wise? The flu, or the flu shot are you talking about? Or are you talking about the
He says not so much the flu shot.
more the corona one?
Yes. Because he's not putting as much weight on the flu shot
All right.
as being as much of a problem as the one with the coronavirus.
What's in it that's causing this? What is it? One of the carriers, or is the mRNA? I mean, what is put in it that can damage or cause mutations?
He's showing me like it's attaching inside the body.
Okay, like it's attaching to a receptor in the cell or something like that.
It's attaching, and then he says, instead of releasing itself, like he's showing me like one type and another type. One type goes in and does its job, and it's like it dissolves,
Okay.
like goes away. And then he says, and this one goes in and it attaches, and then it's like it harvests itself. It gets right in, and then it starts to grow, starts to mutate.
Is that the mRNA one or the protein-based ones? Probably not the viral vector one, since that's the one you like.
No, yes, mRNA.
I figured it sounded
protein,
like it.
yes.
All right, what do you think about Judy Mikovits and her work linking retroviruses and chronic fatigue syndrome originating from vaccines?
He's saying like there's validity to her work. He's commenting about vaccines because he's saying the controversy is not that all vaccines are going to behave the same in all bodies.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's saying that so whatever her studies are, he's saying that they're valid. What she has studied is valid.
So should we get the vaccine for this? I don't want to say the word because, they'll
Yeah.
they won't let me publish this, but the 2019 virus, should we get the vaccine?
Well, he says that this is what we are now bringing this, he says, less from his scientific mind as a human being, without the greater understanding that he now has the greater perspective. He says he's calling it the oneness perspective.
Yeah.
What he says is that he's talking about his study of water, his study of thought creating reality.
Yeah.
He says, if you feel that the vaccine is going to save your life, and the resistance to not taking it creates more fear in your body, then that would be the right choice for you.
Okay, so biology of belief, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that makes sense. Is it true ivermectin was a good choice to prevent, cure, and stop spreading of this current virus, and that it was hidden by big pharma and several governments because of money, because you can't make money on it?
He says correct.
Wow.
That is correct.
Are there any long-term health consequences for those who received these jabs in these past 2 years? And of course, it depends on the person, right?
He says correct. But we are going to, and we have already started to see some of this, and he's even saying mutations in those that are vaccinated. Okay, let me get this right. Mutations in those that are vaccinated affecting those that are not vaccinated
How?
as well.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
You mean
But
when,
yet,
when they have babies, that kind of thing?
no, he says mutation of the virus.
Oh,
Of the
okay.
virus. But he's
Oh,
all
I
okay.
see.
I'm just asking him if he could comment there just about the vaccine though itself.
Yeah.
And he's just saying that yes, and going along with what he said earlier, that is true. It is dependent on many different things. One being the what is the purpose in one's life? What is their path that they are taking? What is their health? What is their current
Oh, yeah.
vibrational status?
Yeah.
Do they have the enough, he's calling it like leeway in the vibration to be able to create a shift to heal? Some will be able to have healing. He says, do not fear if you do have something that, he says inflammation, other problems in the organs from the vaccine. There will be things that can be done. Not all will be able to be saved.
Okay. Well, do you still believe in homeopathy and that could help this 2019 virus? For example, another question: can using frankincense and other oils raise our cellular frequency, which protects us from viruses?
Of course it can, and he says in all stated previously included in that.
Oh, okay. What in nature is the best defense to minimize the virus's harming of humans? For example, Usnea, aka old man's beard, is a strong antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, but is there something better from nature?
Okay, because he says, well, there are plenty of different things, and he says vitamin and vitamin ritual. I don't know if there's some kind of he's saying elixir, some kind of an elixir. He's showing me something that's in a bottle that somebody would drink. It's like a compressed, almost looks like a juice.
Okay.
Some kind of a juice. It's orange.
Mm.
I almost want to say it looks like a turmeric type juice.
Oh, okay.
Like it's got like a turmeric type look to it. He's not saying better, he's saying in combination.
Okay. So different herbs. Can you give more detail? But turmeric, yeah, I mean, it's an anti-inflammatory, so.
Anti-inflammatory, and he says anything with anti-inflammatory properties. He's also saying root, white bark
Okay.
root. I don't know what that's called. Can you tell me what that's called? It's not turmeric. It's something else similar to cinnamon. Cinnamon.
Okay.
Cinnamon
bark. Okay, that's good enough. That's fine. From your perspective now, can a virus be caught by another person, or does it happen because we think they are contagious? Or in other words, are viruses really contagious? Probably more so if you think they are, but they probably are.
Well, yes, because he says that it's based on a couple things. A virus is contagious if you're, he says viruses exist if you are in the vibrational frequency to be able to accept. He says, like any illness, like anything within the body we pass, you have to have the vibrational, he says, the opening to be able to accept that. If you're at a heavier, a more dense vibration, the higher your vibrational quality, he's saying it's the same as attracting anything. He's using like universal law. You cannot attract it, but of course, if you believe based on belief, and he's calling it like psychosomatic, like symptoms.
Yeah.
You create the symptoms.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything about HIV, AIDS, or this current virus that you would like to share with us that's really important for the health of humanity to know at this time? Like message about that for all of us?
One thing that he's saying is that he says that there is a very strong link between his, he says, the study of HIV and the current virus. He says there is a link. He says that humanity as a whole, we're going to be presented with information that is going to be very concerning for us to believe, or hard for us to believe. Because he's saying similarities, and he's holding them together like made in a lab.
Okay.
And there being something like something put together that is not natural, not a natural progression.
Oh, great. Now, during this pandemic, you promoted the conspiracy theory that this virus was deliberately created and escaped from a lab. Is this true? Do you think that, do you still hold by that from your perspective?
He kind of chuckles a little bit because he says, first they give me a Nobel Prize, and he goes, and then they call me a conspiracy theorist.
I know. Do you think that's true now?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that's what Erik says.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel your life was your life threatened when you came out with that information, that opinion?
He says that he had a great deal of controversy in many different things. Was he afraid for his life? No. He's actually commenting about at his age, he had nothing to lose.
Okay. All right. What do you think about Fauci? I mean, he seemed to have funded gain of function research that, I mean, what do you think about him as the head of the NIH?
He says that there would be truth to say that there is more following with him than there is leadership.
Okay. What are the best compliments and embodiments? We kind of said that a little bit. Did you reconnect with Jacques Benveniste? And are you working together? That must be the one that was a co-recipient, Jacques Benveniste.
Well, he's saying yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Y'all working on anything together?
He says yes. In fact, he says we started to work quite quickly in the terms of understanding. We started to work quite quickly together.
Yeah.
And he says that we are working within humanity, and he says that he is planning his return.
Oh, okay.
Already. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Judy Mikovits, again, we're going to talk about her, alleged that quote, at least 50 million Americans would die probably from the first dose of this 2019 virus vaccine if it was mandated for the entire population. Is that true? I mean, maybe not immediately, but over time?
Over time, he says that is not a far-fetched number.
Oh my God. Do viruses compromise the integrity of our DNA in any way? I mean, yeah, vaccines. I think we answered that, did we?
He says that it's yes. And this is what he says he was explaining with it attaching. And he's calling it like a mutation. Yes, over time. Yes. Not right away, over time.
According to Cryon, flu viruses help us to retune our DNA and therefore with our evolution. Is that true?
Yes, he says, of course. And we must understand that there are many different truths available to the purposes of all things that are created in our reality. All accidents, all illnesses, all situations and experiences all have purpose.
Okay. Interesting. What is it? You know, there's a big outbreak of hepatitis among children in many countries at the moment. What is behind that? And does the vaccine, the 2019 virus vaccine, have anything to do with it?
What he's saying is it's not, he says, yes, the vaccine, but he's not saying directly. Okay, see if I can explain this correctly, because he's got a couple components to it. He just says that it's the virus. It's the virus. It's not the vaccine, but he's going back to what he said about the vaccine creates some change in the virus, because he says coming about with the new strains of the virus. He says these are children that may have been exposed, whether they were symptomatic or not. And he's talking about the organs and saying affecting the organs.
Right. Okay. Do you think
young children, he says little
bitty. Do you think there's a link between the early polio vaccines, Sabin, and the HIV virus? Could it have been introduced unwittingly, since the early polio vaccines used the blood of monkeys?
He says no.
That was easy. Are you in contact with Kary, K-A-R-Y, Mullis, the inventor of the PCR polymerase chain reaction test? And what are his thoughts on this matter? I'm not sure what, well, forget that. Are you in contact with Kary Mullis?
He's saying indirectly.
Okay. Are viruses present on other planets?
He says yes. There are other planets that are similar to Earth, that can host viruses. He says some that are further advanced, and he's talking about technology that has already eradicated virus, and that some of our technology or the reverse technology comes from that. So some of what we're learning, because he says that we're not as advanced as some of these planets.
Okay, well, is there any good reason to have viruses?
Well, he says, as we said before, a virus can be an outlet for releasing. He says when the body goes through the vibrational state of change, when the body, because he says that physically, as the body changes in vibration, there must be an outlet. And sometimes that comes in the form of opportunity. A virus can give opportunity for release to take place.
Like death, you mean?
No, he says sickness. So if the body is if say the body is raising vibration, he says a virus can allow the body to purge. But he also says that we have to understand that all things that are created, whether we call them man-made, whether we call them natural progression, he says we have to understand that they all have their purpose. They're divinely allowed within the universe, because there is a he says a purpose for them to take place, because there's learning from it, because there is change that acquires from it. But he says he's talking about the 19 vaccine, the pandemic. He's saying that took place, and we understand, he's speaking very quickly, like he can't catch his breath. We understand that that took place, and what a horrible thing. But look here, we were able to spend time in our homes, spend time with our family, understand ourselves more. Many left the earth, we say that's very sad, but we also understand that many were planned to leave the earth at that time for the greater of the growth of humanity.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes sense. Is it because, if we can't handle such a big increase in our vibration and have to, like purge and decrease it? I mean, our heads
Yes.
would explode or something?
Yes, he says yes. Yes.
Okay. Will people always need vaccines to fight viruses in the future, or will there be any alternatives like scalar energy? One person asked.
That is correct. We will not always need, we will not always require, nor will we want vaccines.
Okay. What does
And
scalar energy work against?
yes, he says, he applauds your work because he says,
Oh,
I applaud what you do as stepping outside of the conventional box and being able to bring something forward that he says, he's using the word fruitcake. Some may say this is a fruitcake. How does this work? But he says, this is the way of the future, and that you are bringing forward technology that is way ahead of its time.
yeah. Well, it seems to work when we do the COVID protocol. So COVID
Yes.
and COVID vaccine protection from
Yes.
that. All right. When is the next pandemic coming? And what kind of virus will be responsible for it? Oh, we're almost finished. I can't believe it. It's going faster than I thought.
Well, what he's showing is actually something to do with the stomach, and the because he's going from respiratory to something in the stomach area, and skin.
Is it bacterial or viral?
He says viral,
Okay.
but he says a bacteria. This is really weird because he's just saying, and I don't even want to say this, but he says for me to say it this way, but he's kind of being funny, but he says it's not funny, but Eric's like, just say it, Michelle, just say it. He says it's, think of the zombie apocalypse. Think of
Okay.
like a zombie outbreak in the skin.
Ooh, like flesh eating?
Like lesions in the skin.
Oh,
Yes, it has
wow.
something to do with a bacteria or something in the stomach.
Is it like a flesh eating bacteria? Like
Something like that. But
wow.
he's what he's saying is there have already been predictions of this, and this is part of where we get that zombie apocalypse, that imagery from it. And so he's just saying, rest assured, it's not quite like that.
No, we're not going to eat each other.
No.
Well, is it because we have overused antibiotics and have created these very resistant superbugs?
Yes, he says exactly, because there's no longer protection. He says taking good bacteria out, removing everything, and so that there's no protection.
Oh, that's not good. Okay. What is the medicine of the future? What does that look like? And would in the future the big pharma keep making money at the expense of people's health? I mean, pharmaceutical companies do have a positive purpose too, of course. I don't want to always throw them under the bus.
No, and what he's saying is, he says, as we see our shift with humanity going forward, is the more that we are going to, and he's talking about generationally, with each generation, there's going to be less dependence on pharmaceutical and more involvement in medicinal from the earth, from what's provided on the earth. And he says, and that's going to be necessary. There's going to be events that will take place in our world that will give us opportunity to find what we need in the world around us to be able to heal. He says that what's very important to understand about our culture with medicine right now is we're in a place right now where our humanity cannot it's too big of a gap for many to go from one state to another. And so he says there are some that are already treating their body entirely through natural means
Yeah.
that have absolutely no, they're vibrating at such a state where they're not touched by disease and they're treating the body. But he says, but there are others, and he's saying as no fault, because it's through the experience of our understanding, our consciousness. And he says there are many that would not be able to step from this state all the way to that without the help of medicine and pharmaceuticals.
Of course. When will your work be recognized? Thank you so much for laying the basis for tomorrow's medicine. And from your standpoint, what will your discoveries help improve other than medicine?
He says, thank you for the recognition, and thank you for spreading that awareness and being part of this conversation. He says that in these next 5 years, we are going to, he says it's a cumulative, because he says my foundation, or what I have laid, there will be others that will pick up that and bring it forward. And so he says it's not only him. He says that he already received his prize. He's good. It's not about him, but others will pick that up and carry it forward. And we will see, he says, unfortunately, some of that will be through results that will not be as pleasant for us to experience within our collective. But he says it is necessary for us to be able to move forward.
Okay. Are you helping and assisting other scientists here on Earth?
Yes, he is.
You already said that, yeah. Do you have a favorite scientist you like to hang out with in heaven?
He says he's talking about himself, like meaning his another version of him.
Oh, really?
Another version of him. White hair. Newton.
Oh, okay.
Newton. Sir Isaac Newton.
Are you saying that you were in another life Isaac Newton?
Yes.
You want to share that? We always ask if there's another life that most influential one, as Dr. Luc, I'll just say. Is that the one you want to share, or is there another one you want to share that had the most influence?
He says that that's the perfect segue. He says, yes, that was his, he says, another lifetime. He talks about his interest in, this one had a bit more of a spiritual influence, he says, but there was, in some ways, he was disregarded, and at the same time was, he says, cherished for the information being brought forward. But he says it was the perseverance in that lifetime that is carried forward into this lifetime, because there was a very strong drive for awareness and for growth, for consciousness.
Okay. Excellent. Is there any quirky thing you want to share about yourself? Something fun?
As a child, he learned how to wiggle his ears.
Oh, I don't know how. I can't do that. Only certain people can. All right. Last question. Any other messages you have for us, or anything else you want to say? The stage is yours.
He just says he's thankful for this opportunity. He says, I'm thankful for this opportunity. I'm very grateful for the work that you do. He says the work that he says my dear friend Erik is doing. He says it is a great pleasure to be in the presence of an archangel. He says he is a very dear friend of his now.
Oh, that's awesome.
He also would like to just share a message for all those that are listening. And he says, fear not, because, you know, we are all living in a time where we are coming from such great fear where we are coming from a place of being in hidden in a box where we really don't know what is ahead. But he says, in the awareness of discovery, he says, when I was a child, I so greatly wanted to understand, for I had fear. I came from a very a family that did not have a lot, and there was a great deal of fear, and sometimes there was fear of no food, and sometimes there was fear in not knowing what was around the corner, fear of the dark, all of those types of things. And so I made it my mission myself to be able to get curious and to be able to create, to be able to understand and create my own awareness. And so my message is for all of you to be curious, allow yourselves to look outside of the box, and do not allow fear to hold you back. Be curious and embrace the awareness. And if you do that each day, you will find yourself in very good shape as we go through these many changes that are ahead.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Erik, do you want to ask him anything or say anything?
Erik says, I want him to teach me how to wiggle my ears.
There you go. I don't think he could. That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Erik. Thank you, Michelle Gray at thehealing-art.com. And of course, thank you, Dr. Luc. I'm not going to say that last name. It's hard. Montagnier. That's what it is. All right. Thank you so much. It was an honor and pleasant. Thank you.
Erik says, love you, Mom.
Love you. Love you more.
Love you, Lisa.
Love you too. Bye-bye.